Hello! Welcome back. This is Talkin Sports with Big Baby David. I'm Big Baby David. Haven't been on the show in like 2-3 weeks because I had finals and I graduated college. I moved back home. But now I'm back, ready to get back into the groove here. Of course, before I get into everything else, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. Really helps us out. We're putting out content pretty much every day. So between the breakdowns, this show, Jomboy Jake Radio, we got pretty much something pretty much every day. And we're always looking for more suggestions, so be sure to tweet at us or comment down below if you got suggestions on anything. But yeah, certainly, our YouTube channel's grown a lot since my last episode. This might be your first experience with me, but be sure to subscribe if this is your first time here. Us out quite a bit. Since the last time we spoke, the NBA draft lottery finally happened, so we now know where the Knicks will pick, which was a big conversation point and a big unknown to have other conversations when we were beforehand. We were talking about different trade possibilities or different guys we could go for, and we didn't know what was going to happen because the draft lottery hadn't happened. We didn't know where the next pick would be. But now we know the Knicks are at 3, which is somewhat disappointing because, of course, they had the worst record in the NBA. They had the number 1 odds of getting Zion Williamson, and that won't happen. They aren't going to get Zion. But they are in a great position to get the other Duke forward, RJ Barrett. Now, I blogged about this over at Talkin Knicks, but I'm a big fan of RJ Barrett. I think he is one of the more NBA-ready guys coming out of college, and a lot of people who know more than I do are saying kind of the same thing. I think he has good defensive versatility potential. Of any of these top guys, he is like 3rd in assists per 36 minutes. He's only behind like Ja Morant and Kobe White, and he's not a point guard. He's listed as a small forward on Tankathon. But he plays like the 2-3, maybe you can play like a really small 4. He's got that length, he's all the things that are important in the modern NBA skill set. So I'm a big fan of the potential of having RJ Barrett as a Knick. Of course, I am more willing now to investigate a trade for someone like Anthony Davis, now that we know for a fact it's the 3rd pick and not number 1 or even 2. And that depends on a few things. I think in general became a lot more likely now because the Pelicans before were kind of not going to be willing to negotiate too much on a trade like that without it including the Zion pick. And of course, now they got the number 1 pick, so they can just pick Zion with their own selection. And of course, the other major suitor for AD in a trade is the Lakers, and they jumped up to 4. So a lot of this hinges on how David Griffin and the Pelicans feel about RJ Barrett specifically, if they want to pair Zion and RJ up at the next level. They played together in college, obviously, and if they feel strongly about any of these other guys, the Garlands, Culvers, Reddish, White, DeAndre Hunter, any of those guys. Because, this is viewed in general as like a 3-man draft because we all kind of know that Zion, Morant, and Barrett will all be, productive NBA players. We're reasonably confident about that. But there's this group of like the next like 10 dudes, like I said, like the Garlands, the Jackson Hayeses, the Clarks, the Langfords, the Hachimuras. There's a lot of guys there that either, were injured or came onto the scene unexpectedly or were a little disappointing, like Cam Reddish, or there's our international guys, so we don't really know what to expect. And there's a bunch of guys. It's like any of the next like 10, 12 guys, any 6, 8 of them could turn out to be great NBA players, but we just don't know. So it depends on how the Pelicans feel about any of those guys, and if they are comfortable taking one of them at 4, if they feel particularly confident about any of them. But I think a trade became more likely now. I haven't changed my stance on when I would want this trade to take place. I am not super willing to investigate the trade until after the Knicks signed 2 max free agents, and they can bring in Anthony Davis as a third guy. So that would mean, Durant and Kyrie both signings dry, then go for AD or whoever else it is. If it's Kemba or Butler, somehow Kawhi got in the mix. I would want to, certainly you need to sign Durant first, and then from there figure out who the next guy is and if you want to trade for AD. Because in theory you can trade less for AD by trading for him into cap space, which would save you money, and you can maybe save yourself a piece here or there. But I think ultimately the Pelicans are still going to want the same guys back, just because that's how to get the fairest trade, especially in their eyes. So I wonder how much you could really save. Like, could you get away with not including Dotson in the deal? It gets gets weird, because if they sign the 2 max guys, they'll have to send a bit more salary back. It's a whole thing. But the odds definitely got better, I think. My initial reaction was that the odds of that happening got worse, but I've changed my tune on that a bit. The more we hear about different rumors and possibilities, I feel better about the potential of an Anthony Davis trade, and we can at least have the discussion. I'm not even necessarily in favor of an Anthony Davis trade. I'd be cool with them just keeping RJ Barrett and keeping him with, Durant and Kyrie or whoever else. And we've heard, the little rumblings about a rumor that Cleveland at 5 is offering to trade up to 3. It's like, I don't know what they can really give besides more future picks, which would be cool in a normal year. But this offseason, we're trying to put together the pieces to go for a championship. If there weren't all these reports out there that are making it kind of safe to assume KD is coming, then sure, trade for more future assets, trade for more young pieces. I'd be open to that. But not in this offseason, man. You're either gotta pick at 3 and take RJ Barrett to pair him up with these other guys, or use it to trade for AD, or even if you want to toy with the idea of a Bradley Beal, something like that. That's how we got to do it. But now I'm going to transition into the questions that you guys sent in. I send out the call for questions usually every Sunday. Sometimes I wait until Monday because I get very lazy. But you can always reply to those tweets with questions, and if you want to send them in, I can't promise I'll remember that the question exists, but I will do my best to hold on to that tweet and use that in a future episode. So, previous conversation brings me into the first part question, which came from Kyle Fisher. He asked a 2-parter. The first question that he asked was the Knicks' odds of acquiring each potential max deal free agent, and he asked the Yankee question that we'll get into soon. So, as far as the Knicks and their potential to get different max free agent guys, I would go with, obviously, Durant seems to be the number one, just because people are saying it's basically a done deal, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. I'm prepared for it to not be, but he is the guy who I would list the number one most likely. Number 2, I would go with Kyrie, because look, it's unlikely because he's so historically unpredictable and kind of crazy, but it's also the next most likely because he's kind of an idiot and he's crazy. So it seems like he'd be the type of person crazy enough to come to New York while James Dolan is still in charge and want to do this thing. He's from the area. It seems like that matters to him. So perhaps this is where he will end up. And I would put him as the second most likely guy. Number 3, I would toy with the idea of putting Kemba Walker here, but now that he's qualified for the Supermax, it's become a bit less likely. So I'll go Jimmy Butler. He's definitely comfortable being a number 2 guy. So if they get KD, Jimmy Butler's been not the focal point of a team plenty of times in his career, and he's thrived in those situations. He did it this year in Philly. I don't think that it will happen, but I won't call it impossible. And I think he is a good player. I wouldn't necessarily be in favor of signing him to a max, but he's a good player. That's a possibility. Number 4, I guess this is where I'll put Kemba Walker, just because he is from the Bronx. he's good and fits a team need. So I'd be comfortable putting him here. Although now that he qualifies for the Supermax, I don't think it's nearly as likely as it would have been a week ago. If I were recording this episode a week ago, I would have put him 3, but I'll put him 4, and then 5 would be Kawhi Leonard. I won't call it impossible. I just really don't see it happening. I think he's either sticking in Toronto or is going to go to one of the LA teams, go home. Weirdly, I feel like this NBA Finals matchup is kind of a loser of the series gets to keep their upcoming max free agent situation, because Toronto, I think if they lose, Kawhi will feel really compelled to stay because there'll be a sense of having like unfinished business to take care of. But if they win, maybe he'll feel more comfortable. He's like, I won you guys a championship. I'm out of here. I want to go home. So I think he becomes more likely to leave, honestly, if they do win the finals. And of course, they want to win and keep Kawhi, which I think very well could happen. But I would argue that at this point, at least in my head, he is more likely to stay if they don't win. And I really wouldn't pick them to win. I'm the Warriors in that series if you were to ask me to do a pick 'em. But so on the Warriors side of things, they become much more likely in my mind to keep Durant if they lose this final series, especially if he doesn't play. Because if he doesn't play and they win the finals anyway without him for the last 2.5 rounds, he really has to go. That's all there is to it. He's gotta go. He's got it. There's been nothing left for him to prove in Golden State then. People will always clown on him for going to the team that won 73 games without him and then acquired Kevin Durant and became unfair. And they're going to do that anyway. But if they lose without him, at least he can say, they couldn't win without me last year. They couldn't win without me the year before I came here. So it becomes more likely that he stays in Golden State if they lose the finals, I think. That's kind of just a little bit of a tangent there. Those are the 5 guys, I think, in that order, the 5 max guys of who the Knicks could get. It sounded like poor English. I couldn't really think of how to make that sentence. The power ranking of those 5 guys that I would give a max, as far as their likelihood to come to the Knicks, would be KD, Kyrie, Jimmy Butler, Kemba, and then Kawhi. Just kind of where I stand on that. Now, on the NBA Finals, we got this question that came in from Bobby Skinner. He's doing a great job with the Talkin Giants podcast and Twitter page over there, and Simple Man Radio, great guy. He asked, will Toronto have to take Marc Gasol off the court to counter Warriors pick and roll? And I'm not going to act like the biggest expert on such things, but he's definitely going to have to come off the court more than he has in the past. He's getting older now. I mean, he used to be an excellent defender. He's a former Defensive Player of the Year, but they definitely going to have to play him less against the Warriors just with how fast-paced they play, and he's in his mid-30s now. They just got to keep the whole lineup fresh against that team. So, in general, I guess the answer to your question is yes, but not entirely. Still got all the tools there, and he still does a lot for them on the offensive side of the game. Marc Gasol is still a very valuable piece to them, and he's not going to be... We're going to see plenty of Marc Gasol this series, is essentially what I am getting at there. The next question came from Michael Memis. He asked for my hypothetical ballot for the all of the NBA awards and the All-NBA teams if I were a voter. First of all, with the All-NBA teams, the first team was Steph, Harden, Giannis, Jokic, and Paul George. The second team was Lillard, KD, Embiid, Leonard, and Kyrie. And the third team was Russ, Blake Griffin, LeBron James, Rudy Gobert, Kemba Walker. Those were the All-NBA teams. And people are talking about them quite a bit. Of course, I guess some of the controversies that they have to be organized by position, and is that really fair? And I guess not, just because basketball is so positionless. But in general, because this is the format we work under, I'm really okay with how this list shook out. Maybe I'd go with Durant over Paul George on the first team, but I don't know. Paul George was also a guy that I considered my like dark horse MVP candidate for most of the early stages of the season. So I really am comfortable with how this shook out. Obviously, guys like Klay Thompson, Bradley Beal, Aldridge. I'm missing somebody. There's other guys that could have been considered, but in general, I think this is about right. Now, if LeBron played a full season, he only played 55 games, he would have been on the first team for me, just because I am a LeBron guy. But he missed all that time, and the team ended up not good. So fair enough, third team, fine. And as far as anyone else, I'm just looking at the list. Like Kemba balled out. Blake Griffin was really, really good this year. People probably didn't pay that much attention to him just because he's like in Detroit, so who's watching a ton of Pistons games. But like every time you looked at his numbers, the stat lines he was putting up were pretty ridiculous. And Jokic is another guy. Like he's gonna get MVP votes, guys. He led the Nuggets team. It's kind of where I stand on the All NBA teams. I think they mostly got it right. I'm really okay with it. There's not that many guys who I would. There's certainly nobody who I'm gonna really say got snubbed. There's just other guys who, maybe they should have gotten some more serious consideration, but I think they got serious consideration. That's really all there is to it. And as far as other awards, I really don't know about the other ones. I mean, Rookie of the Year will definitely be Doncic. In a normal year, maybe Trae Young would be the front runner. Even DeAndre Ayton, he had a very solid rookie year and was the number one pick. But Doncic just lit the world on fire all season. He's a guy. I mean, I remember last year I was saying I wanted him at the number one pick. So I've been high on Doncic for a very long time, and it's cool to see him be what I thought he was going to be. And he's the Rookie of the Year. He is. If you don't think Doncic should be Rookie of the Year, that's on you, man. I don't think people are saying that. I think everyone's kind of agreeing that that's just what the situation is. As far as other awards, I haven't thought too much about it, so I'm not going to do those guys this disservice of speculating on who's going to be sixth man or who Defensive Player of the Year would be. I guess I'd go Rudy Gobert there. That might just be because of recency bias. He got that last year. Basically, where I stand, that's all the NBA topics, really. We got kind of two Yankees questions. So, first one's the other half of Kyle Fisher's question. He asked, who do I see getting sent down when all the Yankees starters come back? And Joe Campbell came in with, when does Tulo get back? And who are the odd men out when Didi and Tulo return? So, with Tulo, I'm kind of at the point, I don't think he's coming back. They're having him work out at third base and stuff, but Didi's going to be back before him. I really just don't see him sticking. I just don't see it. Maybe there's a situation where they could have made all those guys work together, but Didi came back before anyone realistically expected him to, and Tulo has just been out the whole time, and I think he's just going to be cut whenever he's healthy. It just doesn't seem like it. Even Boone is saying he's using the word possible. He could possibly play for the Yankees again. So I just don't buy the idea that Tulo's going to play another game for the Yankees, which is unfortunate. So as far as who would get sent down or cut or whatever when Didi and these other guys start coming back, I guess the first guy who will be out right now would be Kendrys Morales, probably just because he hasn't been particularly good. It sucks, but he just hasn't worked out, really. It's worth taking the flyer on him, but he will likely be the first guy out because it's an easy cut, and there's just not really room for another first base DH guy. And with Didi coming back, there's presumably going to be more first base days for DJ LeMahieu, and it becomes a whole thing. So I think he would be the first guy out. Then it would probably be Estrada, which people might not like because he's been so good and so versatile and fast, and he's really likable. I love Thairo Estrada, but at the same time, it would benefit him to get at bats every day in the minor leagues and get to play in the field every day, 9 innings, rather than doing this utility work for the Yankees. And there's some truth to the idea that there is more benefit to be gained by sitting in a major league dugout every day and being around major leaguers every day. But I think in general he's gonna play a good chunk of this season at AAA, assuming everyone else gets healthy again. As far as when like Didi, Judge, and Stan come back, we're a long way from there. So by then, maybe Cameron Maybin's hot start will have calmed down, and he'll be back to being Cameron Maybin. So that's kind of the easy cut there, and you can keep Clint Frazier in the major leagues, keep his bat going. Of course, he might be cold again, so maybe you'll see him just get sent down and get everyday reps down there, because maybe serving as the fourth outfielder isn't all that beneficial to him right now, and he needs those reps in the outfield, see if they can find any way to improve his defense. But at the same time, with Clint, being in the minors isn't going to help him too much more. You know, his bat, I think, it can only improve with more major league opportunities. And as far as his fielding, is it going to improve more because he's in the minors? Probably not. So I guess I would give him the edge as far as getting to stay here over Cameron Maybin. But we could see a situation where they don't want to lose Cameron Maybin for nothing, and if he's still hitting and playing great defense, they could stick with him. He seems to be liked within the team. Not that Clint necessarily isn't, but Clint will be back. You know, he'll be around. Still young. And of course, finally, we get to James Paxton, who's going to start Wednesday. He will have started by the time you see this, because I'm not going to finish this before the game happens tomorrow. But he's starting Wednesday against the Padres. They just sent down Joe Harvey. So Harvey's that next guy down. When CeCe comes back, it'll probably be David Hale, or maybe Nestor Cortez. But that is definitely who will be like that next group out. For the pitchers, yeah, Hale, Cortez, Harvey just got sent down already. And then as far as position players, Morales, Estrada, and Maybin are like the three guys as far as chopping block power rankings there. And maybe Estrada would go down before Morales, just because they can send him down without losing him, and Morales they would just lose for nothing. So perhaps when Didi comes back in a week or so, it will be Estrada, and Morales will live to see another day. But he's not long for this team if guys continue to start coming back and other guys are staying healthy. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Again, be sure to follow me on Twitter. It's up here at Big Baby David, and at Talkin Yanks, Talkin Knicks, everything else on our network. Subscribe down below. It would really be a big benefit to us. We're just trying to build this thing up one day at a time. So again, thank you so much. Have a great day.